My friends, expropriation without compensation has arrived. And welcome back to Morning Shot. The Land Court Bill and the Expropriation Bill passed Parliament yesterday. So joining me on the line is not Nelson, it's Byron. What on earth is the Expropriation Bill and why is it so, dangerous? Let's be honest.
Yes, the expropriation bill, in a nutshell, in a way that people can understand, allows the ANC government to steal your shit when they feel that they no longer want you to have it, which is basically a parliamentary bill, which means that only needs 50% of MPs to vote for it in order to be able to become legislation. So the bill has now been passed. It was voted on last night. The only people that voted for it were the pricks at the Good Party, who clearly showed they're good for nothing, and the ANC Party. That's it. So, what do you think, Ramon?
So really, the crux of the matter is Section 25.3, right, which says, listen, your land may be expropriated if, there's no compensation, if it's abandoned, if it's state land or land held for what's called speculative purposes. So abandoned land, we can get behind. State land, we actually agree with expropriating all state land away from the ANC. But land for speculative purposes, that can mean anything under the sun. And most importantly, the list is not closed. Like, these are not the only ways to expropriate stuff. And people might be saying, well, Ramon, Cyril and ANC, he needed a win on EWC because he said in 2017, when they had their elective conference, that expropriation without compensation must be part of the law. And they lost the EWC thing to change the constitution. So now for this, Cyril is a win because he can go back to the conference later this year and say, look, we did it, guys, we've done it. Whether they'll use it or not is a separate question. But the fundamental problem is they now have the power to do it. That is the problem. And if you still trust Cyril at this stage, like, you're a moron of the highest order.
Yeah, so let's expand two of those points. The first is around speculative purchasing. Hedge funds buy up land on a speculative basis all the time. According to the Act, and the way that it's phrased, that land now that is not used could potentially mean that speculative purchasing, because that's what you bought it for, and that's subject to expropriation. The first piece of land that gets expropriated in this manner will cause a hedge fund collapse. That's just going to happen, mate. So the first time they do this, staffed is stupid. I suppose the second part of that could be, what if you bought a flat on the basis that the area you bought the flats in speculatively would go up in value, and so you rent the flat out over a period? Is that speculation? Well, the Act doesn't actually define it enough to say that that's not speculation. So what could happen underneath the Trespass Act is you could lose control over it because you've got a squatter in it who doesn't want to leave. And what that effectively could mean is that it's now speculative. It was a speculative purchase. You could lose your property. So you can kind of start to see how the openness of the language could be abused. And we know what the ANC's kind of ideology is like.
No, exactly. And when you have Patricia Liddle saying, guys, don't panic. We're not going to, we're not going to do arbitrary expropriation. Don't worry. This is just a progressive bill to give land to the people. When Patricia Liddle is trying to tell you what they're not trying to do, you know very well it is what they are trying to do. This is land grabs 101. So the bill is not law yet, right? It's passed Parliament, needs to go to the National Council of Provinces, and the president has to sign it into law. That can still take time, right? That can still take 6 months. It can still take a year. Who knows how long that will take. On that front, and especially in terms of the expropriation bill, Sarkliga already said that they will make sure it remains inoperative. They're going to go to court. The DA has said the same thing. And I do believe the usual suspects, as in the people that actually do give a damn, are making sure that... Exactly. Solidarity, AfriForum, and all the rest of them are going to make sure that this does not take effect in law. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the Land Court Bill, which is just another nightmare of a bill. Back soon. Now you just have to answer one question. Do you like guns? Do you like a bit of recoil therapy? If so, why not go to EDB Firearms in the Hartbeespoort area? They have a 1,000-meter long shooting range, one of the longest ranges in this country, as well as having indoor ranges, of course. But not only do they have fantastic ranges, they can help you with every single aspect of owning a firearm, from getting your competency to obtaining a license to buying the gun itself, and of course, every single accessory you need to make sure that you are well and fully armed in South Africa. And even if your license is pending, you can still use, test, and shoot your gun at their premises while you're waiting for your license to arrive. They host regular family-friendly shooting events. They are open 7 days a week. And if you're a Morning Shot subscriber, you get 5% off absolutely everything in store, from range fees to weapons to anything. All you have to do is visit, call, or email them and say Morning Shot for that 5% to apply. So don't wait, pull the trigger and check them out today, linked below.
Just before we move on from the expropriation bill, and I think this is important, key part to note really is the bottom part, which is and other things. So all that would require in order for this to become a major problem is that the government could basically push through an amendment bill, which could be a one-page bill that just says something like all land in the country is now in the custodianship of the government, and that itself would be allowed to be expropriated without nil compensation. And all you'd have is everybody would end up becoming a leasee of the state. Now, you might look at that and go, that would never happen. Except that's kind of what the ANC wants. Now, how would they do that? Well, it's a simple amendment act. So all they'd need is 50% of parliament to agree to it, which the ANC have. They've got a majority. And there you go. Hey, presto, all lands expropriated thanks to this bill. So the inclusion of the words plus others is highly problematic. So you may say, okay, well, let's be logical about this. Like, if they did that, at least I could go to court and argue it, right? What do you think, Ramon? Can I go to court?
Yes, you can. And they actually made provisions for a brand new court. It's called the Land Court. They don't think too hard about names like this. And the Land Court is something that is also past Parliament. And what it will do, according to the article, is that it's basically a court of law and equity it's basically a court of law and equity in respect of the Restitution Act. It has a status of a high court, and the point of the land court is to have everything concerning land go there first. So it is basically, remember when we had the Consumer Protection Act or the Labor Act or things like that, it creates these special courts to deal with these things based on those acts. This is what they are doing with land in general. So if your property is being expropriated, you'll have to go to the land court, which leaves a few things up in the air, notably that how the hell can we trust anyone on the land court to deal with this in an equitable fashion?
Yeah, so there's a reason that we say that, and that is because the judges that get appointed to the land court, are, interestingly enough, dictated by the act, not actually based on merit. They're actually based on their, let's call it their diversity status, if you understand. And they're basically there to represent the genetic makeup of the country. Basically just mean a bunch of, EFF activists, I suppose. And what they will do is they will be the ones arbitrarily kind of deciding on, should we say, matters of fact or matters of law. So that in itself seems like, okay, that's a bit questionable. So we're giving the powers to a land court governed by activists, probably EFF activists, if we know the ANC. You say, okay, well, they're going to tell me whether or not I can have this land. Well, at least I've got my lawyer, right? Well, no, because the minister can also dictate when you can't actually even have any legal representation. So what you could do is you could find yourself in that court, this kangaroo court, if you will, with your EFF judges and no lawyer. And they might quote you a load of bullshit, and you have no lawyer really to tell you if it's right or wrong. What do you think of that, Ramon?
It sounds like decolonized jurisprudence, so therefore perfectly in line with what the ANC wants to do with this country. So basically, what you need to know from this video as a whole is expropriate our conversation is here. Don't listen to Patricia DeLille and her chicken wire fence across the northern border. This woman is an card-carrying member of the communists, right? When she says Don't worry about land grabs. You should worry about land grabs. And number two, they are limiting your rights even further. That once this expropriation act is going to be used against you or against someone in this country, they're going to have a packed court full of morons to dictate whether expropriation is fair or not when they come after you. So it's a two-pronged attack on property rights. None of it is good. And I'm not saying you should panic, but you should be extremely aware that this dilutes property rights to such a degree that there might not be any in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, but on the plus side, the entire thing is unconstitutional to the point of, like, for real, guys? Come on, you guys can't even be this stupid to think that this will pass the Constitutional Court. Disallowing somebody to have legal representation. I mean, come on, man. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you do wonder to yourself, okay, look, I know Cyril needs a win. He needs to go to the elective conference and go, I got expropriation, and don't worry, I got a kangaroo court to enforce it. None of this will pass, you freaking clowns. But with that all being said, you know what I'm the most surprised on? In researching all of this stuff, you and I scoured the internet for hours. We went through Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We went fucking everywhere. Where is the media? That's nowhere. They're all talking about pala pala. Where is the media? Where's the outrage? Where are the banks? Nowhere. Quiet as a dormouse. They're too busy writing articles about ethnic diversity and diversity in the corporate environment. Where is the outrage? Why is it left to people like myself and Ramon having to talk about this topic? Where are the clowns? Nowhere. Nowhere. So they're complicit in this. So all I'm going to say is expropriation is here. It's going to be a shit show of a ride for the ANC. It's going to get stuck in the Constitutional Court for the next 10 years. It's not going to happen. It's going to be Cyril's quick little claim to fame. It's going to cause policy uncertainty. The first time one Murdoch bloody ranch gets taken over, the hedge funds will collapse. Cyril will have no money left to squirrel away because it will all just disappear. And in the meantime, all I'm saying is when the banks and all the corporate media get their backs pushed against the wall in front of the firing squad, Ramon, we're filming and cheering because they were complicit. That's all I'm saying.